Today I had the privilege of attending a book signing for this book I purchased called A Sudden Shot, written by Camille Kimball. She's an Emmy Award investigating reporter from the Phoenix area of Arizona, where she actually lived the lives of the victims, the judge, the juror, the prosecutors, the defense, and even the killers in this book. Ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to buy this book. It is cutting edge. I've done a forensic analysis of it. It is just outstanding.
A couple of summers ago, there were a couple of interesting characters running around Phoenix. They were armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a handgun, and they took up the unusual hobby of hunting human beings. And there was no rhyme or reason for who they would shoot. And before it was over, 37 victims. Many of them were dead. Many of them were wounded for life, crippled as a result of these two morons. Well, anyway, longtime journalist Camille Kimball chronicled this in her latest book called A Sudden Shot, and this is a book signing here in Los Angeles. She's being interviewed by Ron Kilgore of Los Angeles Radio.
What prompted you to want to write a book, especially about a serial killer, especially this series of really grisly crimes?
I lived through this series of really grisly crimes. I, like everyone else in Phoenix, and when I say Phoenix, I mean the whole area there. People don't realize it's 600 square miles of territory we're talking about. Everybody was afraid to go out at night. Everyone was talking about it, and I was one of them. And in fact, I was even thinking of leaving Phoenix. I've lived there for a long time, and I thought, I don't think I want to live like this. It's too terrifying. It's going to go on for years, decades, because that's what serial killers do. And then one morning I woke up and they had arrested the two suspects. And I was just stunned, and I thought, we must have the best police force in the nation. How did they do this? They caught these guys in just a matter of months rather than decades, and I had to find out what that story was. And that's what this book is. I had to tell the story once I found it out.
Now, there's a hook to L.A., because I understand, was it The Detective? Might have ended up here except for Prop 13. Is that
That's exactly it. You got that exactly right. Cliff Jewell, who is a credit to the law enforcement of this country, was all set to be hired on and assigned to the Los Angeles area for California Highway Patrol. And he was just about to enter the California Academy, and the hiring got turned on its head with this Supreme Court decision in California. And so he came to Phoenix instead, and in fact, after he entered the academy in Phoenix, things got smoothed out in California, and they called him back and said, well, come, and he said, I'm already here. And it is your loss, let me tell you, your loss. He was well known in the police department as being a pet lover, and they called him the pet detective. He's just got a really soft heart for the dogs. And dispatchers and other people around the department started saying, well, you know, Cliff, we had a dog shot way out over here on, far away from where his murders were. And Cliff, his instincts told him that even though it was a dog, it was in a different part of town and it was a different weapon, his instincts told him that they were probably connected. And that's kind of when the kernel of the idea that there was a serial killer at loose, and one who breaks the mold. People want to say that serial killers start with animals and move on to humans. Ours didn't do that, at least what we know of him, of that. He was doing them simultaneously and doing people. The first known cases were actually murders, and then he moved to animals, then he went back and forth. So a little bit of dissent within the law enforcement community as to what was going on, and I don't want to give too much away because that story is told in the book. But yeah, at the beginning there were isolated crimes, random crimes, differing crimes. There were men, there were women, there were old people, there were young people, there were white people, there were black people, there were Latino people, there were Indian people.
There was politics.
Politics?
Politics.
Oh.
Nobody wants the world to think they've got a serial killer loose.
Well, you know what? I have to say I didn't really see that when I, delved into this investigation. I did not see that. Once they, really figured out what they were doing, they alerted the public as soon as they could.
As a veteran reporter, we all know that we're often asked about stories that we cover, whether we have personal feelings, and of course things do get to us. Tell me about how this got to you. First of all, the killings bothered you, and then you jumped right in the middle of this.
There were times when I had to walk away from the computer because what I was writing was making me cry, and I had to tell the story, and those words have to come out of your fingertips. but I'd have to get up and take a break because I was crying so hard. At the same time, I found the most heroic things in the story, and I tried to live in that space.
One more thing. This is the kicker. This is Bill Rhetts' microphone and his flag. And if you really want the news and the first run news, you need to go to Crime File News. And of course, Crime File News is operated by the world famous #1 detective Paul Hubel, and that's me.
Well, there you have it, folks. I encourage you to buy Camille's book, A Sudden Shot. I'm Bill Rhetts, High Caliber News, Hollywood.